Right. Hi, everyone. So tonight is about Python, and we did Python last Friday. We spent 1 hour talking about data structure, and today we will continue with that session. Since we have only 1 hour, and today we will talk about functions. I like to talk about the resources and the learning path first. I think all of you have had similar experience. And the first time you knew Python, and probably through other people, and maybe you read blogs. Lots of people say Python is actually easy to learn. Python is interesting. But then you heard very quickly different opinions. And some other people say Python is actually very hard. There's a lot. And Python is kind of boring because there are just so many things you will need to learn before you do anything interesting. So that has something to do with the learning path. How can we arrange the learning, in sequence, so you always feel motivated, you feel engaged, and you feel interesting, and not too hard, so you give up, and not too easy, so you get bored. In my opinion, from my own experience and how I learned Python, I think picking the right resource is like picking your friend. If you pick the wrong one, it's gonna take you a long time to recover, or maybe you will not recover at all. So it's really, really important to pick the right resource. Nowadays, on the internet, you can get just so much, so many different resources, and that creates the problem. It's hard to choose. So today, I just want to show you the way I learned Python. I think that worked for me. And we also use similar approach to teach our students. When you started learning a programming language, probably you will learn the fundamentals. So that includes data types, variables, conditionals, and loops, and functions, and the basic stuff. But you just keep asking, when we get to use Python to do something interesting, but this just keeps going. And before long, and your brain start to hurt, when you try to concentrate and learn the fundamentals in a programming class. Sometimes the content is so dry, and it makes you fall asleep. But at the same time, some other people, they have the experience, let's just learn the essential, the very, very basics, and then very quickly, let's do something interesting. Let's do a small little project. A small little project really, really helps. It gives you the context, because you do things with a clear sense of purpose. And it also provides you with the context, and the context really, really help you anchor the knowledge and the skills, and that requires you to apply, in order to solve the problem. So today we're going to show you several things. I like to start with the context. So let me just go to Google. And there's a very interesting website. It's called, I think it's called Financial Modeling Prep. Yeah. So let me just go to Financial Modeling Prep. The website itself, it doesn't look very nice, but it's very functional. It's pretty easy to, let me just log out first. And it's pretty easy to sign in. You just click sign up, or you can just click sign in, because you can log in, sign in with Google. So if you have a Gmail, this becomes very convenient. So I have a Gmail. So it takes you to this page. I will give you a little background about this. So I actually, this website was created by just one developer, one guy. That's true, just one single person. He's a developer. He got educated in Montreal, and he worked in Montreal for a while before he left for Paris. But his entire career, he's been, working as a developer. But he is very, very interested in financial market. So he is interested in stocks and trading. So that becomes a hobby. And he, tried to use the skills, including, Python programming, to get data from the internet. And the same data you can get if you know how to do web scraping, okay? But here's the interesting part. You see, nowadays, you see traders and trying to learn programming, or developers trying to learn trading. So the boundary start to become a blur. So if you click developers and then go to home, and then click pricing, it's about the money. That's why I want to show you the money. You see, he collects all this data from the internet, and it's free. I mean, you can get it if you spend the time, takes the trouble. But he collect all the data, he make the data so clean and so usable, and then he turn around and sell this data to individual and enterprises. And look how much he charged for starters. That's $14 a month, and $39 per month for professional, and $75 per month for enterprise users. This is even more expensive than Microsoft Office 365. I mean, this is crazy. And I knew another company called Quando. It's actually based in Toronto. It's not, I think it was created like 10 years ago. Same idea. The founders were developers. So they create the company just to get free data from the internet, and that you can get yourself if you know how to do web scraping. But the CEO, I read this interview, he said lots of companies and individuals, they want access to data, and especially financial data. And our value proposition is this, very simple: between wanting data and having data like that. So they want to have it right away without any trouble. So it's convenience, it's access. And it turned out the company was so successful, it was acquired by NASDAQ. So it became part of NASDAQ, and it's a Toronto-based startup. So like you said, it's very, very inspiring. So today, I'm just gonna use the free plan. And most of you can just sign up, log in, and you will have the free plan automatically. And this allows you to use KPI to get the financial data from this website, and you can make 250 requests a day, and that's more than enough for learning Python, for practicing. So now I'm going to take you to documentation. And on your left-hand side, you see all the indexes. So I'm going to go down all the way to historical stock price. Yeah, stock price. So I'm going to choose this category, historical price. So when I click, and you will see, you can get stock prices every 5 minutes, every 15, every half an hour, every 4 hours. This is simply too much. I'm going to go down to historical daily. The last one, historical daily prices with change and volume time series. Okay, so if you click this oval-shaped link, it will take you here. I think most of you are familiar with this data, and it's JSON, right? Let's just take a look at the dictionary. Here is the symbol. So JSON is key value pair, and for every data point you have the key and then you have the value, right? So the stock symbol is AAPL, that is Apple, right? And after that, this is the name of the data set. So it's called historical. So this is a dictionary. URL, okay. Let me just send you this URL first. 1 second. All right. So back here. So this dictionary's name is historical. And those of you who are familiar with, stock market, you will usually see the date first, April 28th. That's today, right after the close. And then the most familiar thing for you is the open, high, low, and close. Okay, so in short, if you remember, it's OHLC. It's open, high, low, and close. And of course, you get some other information. But the most important is probably the open price, high price, low price, and close price. And we have 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it's important to take a look at this URL and to analyze it so you know how to make an API call. The first part of the URL is simply the website. So then it's the API and version 3, and then the name of the data set, that's historical price full. And then after / you see AABL. So that's the stock symbol. Zoom in. Okay, I'll zoom in. Okay, so you can see the data better, but the URL is still small. So this is the stock symbol, AAPL. And after that, you see time series. Time series equal to 5, so that's 5 days worth of data. And after that, you see API key. So that's your credential. And after the equal sign, that's the API key. So this is my API key. So I'm going to copy. So one thing you will need to do is learn how to create a environment variable. I will explain why we need to create a environment variable a little after. Okay, I can explain now. The reason being, this is your credentials, right? You don't want to show your credentials like IDs and password in your code. If you're paying for the service, people might just use it. So it's very convenient, if you use environment variable to store your API key. So what you need to do is you can just click the Windows and then search for, I think it's advanced. Yeah, it's right here. It says View Advanced System Setting. So click that. This will bring up the system properties. And I'm here on Advanced. Yeah. So if you go all the way down, you will see Environment Variable. And if you click this, I'm going to create a user variable, for my name. So over here, I already did API key. So if I click delete this one, I can repeat this process. Just type API key, all lowercase, and then paste the actual value and click OK, and click OK, and click OK. All right. So I hope you get that. And then, so your API key is saved into the operating system. And just remember this, you need to finish this before you open the IDE. So over here, I use Anaconda Navigator. So I'm going to click on Anaconda Navigator. Just wait. Assuming it's going to be big enough, the font, you will see it. All right, so I'm going to launch Jupyter Notebook. All right, so I already have the two notebooks. Yeah, first of all, I can show you the Python tutorial for absolute beginner. This is what I use to learn the very, very basics of Python. So if I open this, you will see the fundamentals. Yeah, so this is a very good teacher on YouTube. So the fundamentals, like any programming language, you will need to learn the data types and variables, conditional, and then functions, list, and the loops, for loops, while loops, and breaks, and then dictionaries. So you started to feel bored, when you see classes and objects, right? And stack. Yeah. So I'm going to say this one more time. Usually people feel bored by the fundamental, but fundamental is important, and that's how you get started. But I highly recommend, after you learn the basics, you just start doing small little project just to get yourself engaged, because you might fall asleep, when the instructor teach you the syntax. But if you have a problem in your mind you really, really want to solve, so in this case, I really, really want to get the stock price. I want to use Python to do that. So I could, stay up 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, no problem, because I have a clear goal and I will find a path to achieve that goal, right? So I highly recommend that you start a small little project, even though you don't quite understand everything about that project. And now with ChatGPT, you can actually ask AI, or you can do your search, and you probably will get a piece of code, but you're not sure if the code will work for you or not. But then while you try it and test it and then debug. And that is, in my opinion, the best way to learn. So even though after you solve the problem, you feel so excited, you still don't fully understand. And sometimes you probably only understand 50% of it. In my opinion, that's perfect. Okay. But later on, if this thing is important, you will come across the same fundamental skills again and again. So this is just so much better for retention. But if you just keep learning the boring and dry stuff and without the opportunity to apply it, you will have a very obvious forgetting curve. It doesn't take that long for you to start forgetting the things you have learned. So, I think this is the best way to protect your curiosity and to keep you going. So I'm going to close this. This is not the purpose for today. So today I really want to show you this candlestick chart. So first of all, yeah, it's just a piece of code. First of all, let's try to run it. Okay, so you can actually see a candlestick chart for ZM. So this is Zoom. We're right now using Zoom. So this is the stock symbol for Zoom, and this is the chart for stock price over, let me see. So this is a function. So this is the stock symbol, and this is the number of days. So it's over 180 days, 6 months. So as you can tell, the price dropped significantly in the last 6 months. So below the chart, you can actually see the slicer. You can control the beginning or the end, and you will see a clear candle or candlestick. So just a little something about candlestick. I want to show you, do you see the red candle and the green candle? And the reason this is green is because the closing price is higher than the opening price. So close is higher than open, then it's green. And if the close is lower than open, then it's red. Okay. And if you have sticks, coming out of one end and sometimes two ends, so this is the low price during that day, and this is the high price during that day. So in this case, let me pick a long candlestick. This is the candle with two sticks. So this day, there was a lot of movement, in price, and the high and low, the distance between them is actually significant. And not only that, the stocks actually hit a high point during that day and a low point during that day. So, and this is what we call the volatility, during that day. And the reason people love the traders and love candlestick is because the candlestick will show you the volatility, on a given day. And then the chart will show you, the trend over a longer period of time. So that's the reason why this candlestick chart is so popular. And most people use candlestick chart to track and monitor the stock price. So with that, we're going to understand this piece of code. So what we can do is, so we have an empty cell. Let's bring this up to the top. So what we can do is we can just test all these lines one by one, and let's see what it does. But before that, I want you to press Control M, press Control and Micro together, and then L. So and let me repeat this. Let me just put this back. Control M and L. So this is just to show the 9 numbers. So later on, it will make the reference easier. Just press Control and M for Michael together, and then just L. So then you will see the 9 number, right? So with that, I'm going to show you the 5 import first. So I'll just put the 5 imports over here. Let me just get rid of the empty 9. So Python is great only because Python is open source, and probably there are millions of developers in the world. They not only love Python, they try to improve Python, right? So everybody, benefit from it, and there's no secret in Python, and people just open source everything they did, every package, every library. So that creates this community, and everybody can benefit from it. Everybody can also have the opportunity to improve it for free. And this is the good thing about Python. So even though you're a beginner, you can enjoy all the benefits that come with Python. Just because there are so many, libraries and packages, before you use it, you will have to import the libraries and packages and start using maybe a part of it, certain functions within that package. So that's the reason we will need to import all these packages, because at some point over here, we use all of them. So let's just look at the first one. So this is pandas, and we give it alias and nickname. So we call pandas PD. So let's look for PD. So it's right here. So you see? So it's calling pandas and dot. So we're using data frame. We are using data frame to convert the data from JSON format to a table format. So PD is called over here. And the second one is Plotly. So Plotly is a very useful package to use to create charts. And this is just a submodule of Plotly called graph object. So you just call this in short and GO. So Go is short for graph objects. Where do we use it? It's right here. So in 919, do you see Go figure? And here Go candlestick. I'm going to explain, this several lines a little after. And once again, we just steal this piece of code from the Python candlestick chart. So that is the documentation for Plotly. So we did use this as well. So what about requests? This is how you make API calls, request. So that's right here in 913. So you put request and then .get. So within the bracket after F, you start seeing, this whole URL. It's actually quite familiar. We saw it before. And then JSON. So that's where you use it in 914. So this is JSON, right? And OS is operating system. So this is, how you retrieve the API key from the environment variable. That's right here in 9.9. Okay. So with this, I just want to show you why we need to do all these imports, because we use, these libraries and modules. So after that, let's run this. Let's just run it. So this runs without a problem. So I'm going to just copy the next line over here. You can just put it over here, and you can print API key. So API key. So it takes a while just to get familiar with the syntax or the grammar. So it's OS and dot invariant and dot get the value of the API key. So you can print API key, or I can just type API key. It's pretty easy. And then you can run it. You see the value of API key. So this also runs, it's tested, it's working. So I'm going to get rid of this. So now let's go down to line 13. So we're making the API call to get data. So I need to copy the entire line. Let's go back here. So this R equal to request dot get, the whole bunch, right? So let's try that. And let's copy R. You see, it gives me an error message. So it says the name symbol is not defined. So it's right here. So this is just one argument we didn't pass, right? So to test this piece of code, we can just hard code ZM. So you can do uppercase or lowercase, no problem. So let's just do lowercase ZM. And this will also cause a problem. You can try this. And right here it says days is not defined either. So let's do that. Let's just use the same 180 days. And what about this? This shouldn't give us an error because it's actually defined here, right? So I'm going to run this. So this runs, but it gives you a response of 200, and you're not able to see any data. So what you can do is, it's right after R, you can type TEXT. And let's run this again. Oops. So you did get something back, but it's a mess. As you can tell, it messed up the whole data set, and it's not wrapped properly. You see all this \n, right? So what we can do is, let's just go to the original piece of code. What's the next line? So we'll need to specify the format as JSON. So let's do this. Let's go back here, paste over. Python is pretty strict in terms of the syntax. You cannot leave any spaces before it. So let's just put an R again over here and run. So this is pretty similar to what we saw, right? It's very similar to this, just for different stock. And this is Apple, and this, it's here. And this is Zoom. It's also, and there's a lot more data because it's 180 days. All right, but what we really need is this dictionary called historical, right? So the next we will do is just to get the dictionary called historical, and this is how you do it. You just put the name of the dictionary within a single quote, and then put a square bracket around historical. And let's just copy this over here. And then, so we give it a different name, historical. And so let's do historical then. Let's type the JSON file. Let's do this. Okay, so now you see this data, it's very neat. All right. So the next step will allow you to see magic. So we're gonna convert JSON to data frame, which is a table, with rows and columns. And we call this a data frame, and in short, DF, data frame. So you can see we are calling pandas data frame, and from this dictionary called historical, right? So let's run this. Boom. Oh, we need to print df. So you're like, nice. This is really, really nice. So you can see not the whole data set, but it showed the first 5 and the last 5 rows. And you can clearly see, because the index starts from 0. So this actually has 180 rows that represent 180 days. So now with the data in the table format, we already have the 5 most important columns for us to chart. So you see the date column, open, high, low, and close, right? So we have everything. Now what we need to do is to copy 19, 20, and 21. So where did we get this? And let me just show you. So I include the link over here. So this is the Plotly, documentation. And here it says candlestick charts in Python. This is the exact same chart. And this is an, So this is an example, simple candlestick with pandas. So we simply use the same, code. So if we go back, let's just copy this code and go to the top. Once again, we need to get rid of the extra spaces. Let's run this. And this one says the name symbol is not defined. So it's right here. So this is basically the title for the chart. So candlestick chart for whatever, stock symbol. Because we hard code this, I'm going to get rid of this for now, just so it runs. Okay. Right. So let's run this. Okay. So it runs. It's the exact same chart. So up till this point, this works. And this gets you the candlestick chart for Zoom over the last 180 days. And this is so useful. So we want to create a function out of this because chances are we're going to perform the same task over and over later. So function is really, really helpful. If you, spend the time and build it once, and later on, you can just specify the arguments, you can just pass the parameters and you can run the same piece of code and create a candlestick chart for any stock zone for any number of days. So with that in mind, we are going to create a function. So this is basically the part we're going to convert into a function. If you have learned function, you remember how we define a Python function. So that start with def and then the function name. So let's call this candlestick. Candlestick. So 2 arguments, and the first one is symbol, and the second one is dates. All right, and you always finish with a colon. Yeah. So then what you need to do is indent this. 2 things we need to fix. And first of all, remember we hard code the stock symbol over here. So let's get rid of it with a curly bracket. So replace it with symbol. And the second one is days. So let's just get rid of 180, hard-coded 180, and press curly bracket and replace it with days. And after that, this should be all good. And let's just put this candlestick chart for the stock symbol. So we put symbol back here. All right. And this should run. Let's try that. Does it run? It runs. So after this, let's just insert a cell. We're going to call this function. So it's can stick. And let's do the same thing. It's zoom, but this is a text, so we need to wrap it with in single quote. So let's type zoom within, and then we put 180 days. So let's run this. Oh, so it runs beautifully. So what other stocks do you want to see? It's pretty easy. So let's just go to Google. Which one? How about Tesla? Just type stock symbol for Tesla. I will show you how to find the stock symbol. So usually it will show you the market first. So this is a market, which is NASDAQ. Oh, sorry, I think I click on it. So the market is NASDAQ. So Tesla is listed on NASDAQ. And then after that, you will see the stock symbol. So this is TSLA. Let's go back here. Let's replace ZM with TSLA. So let's go crazy. Let's replace 180 days with, I don't know, 720 days. Let's try that. Wow. See? It's almost instant, right? So it's interesting if you look at the stock performance of Tesla. Way back, before, this is just right after the COVID breakout. And then you see how the stocks actually shot up all the way. Ooh, let's go all the way up to about $400 a share. And then you see so much volatility and go all the way down and back to 100 and then up again. And now it ended up right here. So that's today. So the finishing price. If you really want to get a closer look, it's pretty easy. Oops, what did I do? So this is today. Okay, today. Close at 164. All right. What else? Microsoft. So let's try a stock symbol for Microsoft. Okay, once again, oh, it's on NASDAQ as well. Let's try a different one. What else? Amazon. Oh, it's all on NASDAQ. It's the tech. Okay, let's use Amazon. Let's go back here. Let's make it even longer. How about 1080? Ooh, look at that. So it's pretty convenient, very easy. So the beauty of Python is completely open. So if you really want to use the world's data, I mean, if you consider internet, the whole universe, you can get any data from any website if they provide the API service. And API in fact becomes so important. There is I think somebody coined the phrase API economy. So in future, you can actually get the microservice from each and every vendor. And if you need anything, if you need the data, you can just subscribe to one vendor service, and you always use the API, application programming interface to get data. So you get data, it's not the usual way. So you, as a developer, you get data using programming. So this becomes so useful. So today, I think we have learned function. And I tell you, it's very hard to forget function because you're going to remember candlestick. And this is the context. And you also remember very clearly the two arguments you need to pass. One is symbol and the other one is days. And you also remember, how we went to the website and how we found the API and the URL, and we analyzed the URL, and we found our API key, and we saved the API key, the value, into environment variable on the Windows operating system. So then we go to the Anaconda Navigator, and then we're able to create this very useful function, and we can just get the historical stock price for any stock that's traded on the market, and then we can use that data. Look at this. I mean, there's no limitation. You can get even 10 years worth of data or even more, and you can create a candlestick chart almost instantly. All right, so let me just take a look if we have any questions. Can you create the API key in the environment, please? Or did you miss that? Yeah, so basically we just click the Windows sign and type advanced. Yeah, to just go to view advanced system setting, and you will see the advanced setting, and go to environment variables, and you will be able to create a API key using environment variable. Yeah, that's it. So really, really simple. I haven't done it on Mac, but I'm pretty sure it's possible. So aside from candlestick, how else can we use functions on various items like you just did with the stubs? Can you give an example? There are just so many ways you can do this. For instance, you can get financial statements for the issuing company. Some of you probably know in the US, for probably, I don't know the exact number of stocks, trading on, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ. You probably have more than 15,000, stocks. But all those companies who issue the stocks, they need to file the quarterly financial statements with SEC, and there's a huge database you can get using API. So you can make API call and get the financial statements, and you can also create charts. We have another function called waterfall chart. So you can actually create a waterfall using the income statements from the financial statements, and you can do that for any stock, for any issuing company, And I mean, potentially, you will make the accountant or financial analyst job obsolete. because this is just a new way of doing things. Oh, I almost forgot. Because I read this blog post by a startup in Florida, and this company, once again, I think it is in the trade of buying and selling, or I should say scraping financial data and then selling financial data to banks, to hedge funds, to private equity. So what they did, this is really, really scary. They hired 2 developers and they used programming and they analyzed the financial statements and disclosure notes of 15,000 public companies, in the US. I mean, if I was a financial analyst doing due diligence, usually I can only analyze the financial statements for one company at a time. It's time consuming, it's labor intensive. If I heard that, two people using programming and they analyze the financial statements of 15,000 companies, I would be terrified. I would be scared to death, because that is telling me my job can easily be replaced, by computer, by programming. I mean, it's important to know a lot of this, because if this is inevitable, maybe we should just reinvent ourselves. Maybe we should just learn a new way of doing things. So right now, as you have heard, automation is a big buzzword. So you see the same company, hiring people, and same company letting people go. So basically, they are firing people with outdated, obsolete skill sets, but they hire a lot less people, and so they can do a lot more, with a lot less time, So everything is going digital, and we just have to learn the newest technology, and otherwise we'll become irrelevant. Let me see if we have another question. Interview questions with Jason. Antonio, can you use this API to give an example of the coding interview question, like finding stops between? Interesting. So coding interview, I think, is more around algorithm or logic, because data structure is one thing I think we touched upon very briefly last Friday. But Python, if you get tested on Python, very likely it's about logic or algorithm. How do you work with different data structure and to solve a problem or to achieve certain goal? And just remember, algorithm has a lot to do with the runtime and the usage of memory. I think a lot of the questions are about how can you make this piece of code run faster, or how can you, tune the performance of this piece of code, so you will use a lot less memory. And it's more about that. I think the best resource to really practice data structure or algorithm questions using Python is LeetCode. There are just so many problems. More problems just got added to the list. But this is my opinion. You don't need to solve all the problems. It's impossible. But there are only a number of algorithms. So later on, you will see many problems are similar, maybe are just variation of the same problem. So my recommendation is, there are people, they handpick certain problems. I don't know if you have heard of like the 65 or 75. So meaning if you solve the 75 problems, you almost have seen them all, right? And so I would highly recommend that you just go after those very typical algorithm questions, and don't just do it once, you do it more than once. And the next time and the third time you do it, make sure your logic is crystal clear and you can solve the problem maybe with half of the time. And the third time you solve it, even faster. So I really think repetition will help you overcome the forgetting curve and will help you build the muscle memory, So when you go to an interview, if it's a technical round and people test you on the Python skill, and your body knows how to react to it before your mind does. Okay, more question. Could we please have you demonstrate an example of financials for a different company? I think we don't have time for that. We can probably expand this to do a more comprehensive, use case using Python next time. But the purpose of this presentation is just to show you Python and how powerful it is. Like I said, let's use the right resource to learn Python. And at Weclouddata, we have just experimented with the learning curve, so many times, and we know how to design a learning path that will make most learners not only engage, but really, really enjoy this process of solving problems. Our data science boot camps are probably the best in Canada. And I think people coming from all kinds of background, some of them are even from the business, finance, accounting, economics background, but they work really hard, on programming skill. I mean, nobody is perfect, if you're perfect, you wouldn't need this training anymore. But everybody has your own strengths and weaknesses. You just need to work harder on the weakness. And Python is huge, but Python is also the future. The fundamental skills are still pandas. You will just need to know how to manipulate data, get familiar with the fundamental. But again, if you only learn the fundamental, and after maybe 6-8 weeks, you will forget maybe half of them. So my recommendation is to find a small little project like this, and then you will try and reproduce the same thing and make sure you understand at least 50% of it, and then move on, solve a problem with a little higher level of complexity. And after this, you'll feel more and more comfortable with Python. All right, so we still have 16 people with us. That's great, because it's most certainly not easy to teach a programming language. And myself, I'm 55 this year. If I can learn Python, I think most of you are so young, you can learn. Once again, Python is easy to learn, it's interesting, but just make sure you pick the right resource. And so we can keep you engaged and make you taste the good thing, the success earlier, and that will keep you going. You'll keep going. End of the day, you will learn Python to really handle a lot more challenging tasks if the company intends to use external data sources. And once again, API economy is coming. I think every one of us will need to learn how to use API to get data, from other companies' website, from other resources. Any questions so far? Okay, so if no more questions, I think that's all. I really thank you for taking the time, and please enjoy the weekend. Wecloud Open is open and it's ongoing. So we will launch more courses, if I'm not mistaken, on Wednesday and Friday. So if you're into data, and just feel free to join all these classes. And if you have more questions, if you would like to have like one-on-one consultation about your career pathing, how to make the next move, for instance, and how to learn a data tool more effectively. But after all, I think you're trying to build a career, or you're trying to break into a new role, new industry. So let's have that conversation. Just go on to our website, and you will find the contact details, and just log into our learning portal. There are just so many free courses that you can learn at your own pace. And yeah, let's hope we can meet again. So I will see some of you in another session.